I thought that the Backrooms movie is not gonna be good. I was like, man, this is something that won't be good. Okay, I thought like, man, they always mess up these kind of movies. Like look at Five Nights at Freddy's. That shit is horrible. That shit is bad. That shit shouldn't be in cinemas at all. But I did like the hype because Backrooms. I like the concept of Backrooms that you can no clip of reality and end up in like a labyrinth, like a maze, filled with yellow wallpapers and it's just infinite. There's no exit and stuff. And I thought, how can they turn a small concept that can be in a game? Sure, a game is good, but like, how can they like take this little concept and turn it is into a whole movie? How can they like explain all of it? They did it pretty well, and I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's peak, like peak of the mountain. No, that would be way too harsh. But I do think it's somewhere between 7 out of 10. Now I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, Backrooms is too slow. Backrooms pacing is bad. But a lot of movies out there, they have slow pacing, yet they're great. They're actually good. It's just that people are now like, I don't know, they want to get straight to the point, you know? Like they want like I don't understand. When you create an art, it depends on how you want to create it because an art like nowadays can be just like someone like getting a paintbrush and like whoosh, or like get a paint and then splatter it around and it's going to cost $1 million. But if you look at other paintings that have details, for example like a Mona Lisa that was painted with love and stuff, right? You have to paint it for a while. You have to perfect it because we don't know if the Mona Lisa was painted from the first try, or maybe we do, or maybe I'm dumb, or maybe I didn't research. But that's fine because any painting takes time to paint, especially good pictures. It takes time. But okay, I gotta stop yapping about backrooms. Oh, sorry, yapping about anything other than backrooms because this is the backrooms review. And now, my personal gimmick. Where are my Chinese headphones? Well, I left them because I'm on vacation, but I still have that outlook, I think. So, of course, I'm gonna probably have spoilers here. So, yeah, to explain why is it good. So, we get introduced to Clark. Clark is a guy who lives in I mean, he doesn't like he's struggling basically at his work where he sells furniture, and he also goes to a therapist to discuss his problems. And then one of the problems was that Barbara, his wife, kicked him out of the house, and this will be pretty important. That wife, and basically, yeah. So Clark one time, um, goes to the basement of his uh business, like selling furniture and stuff, and like he tries to turn off the light because sometimes just turns on by itself, and then when he flips a switch, right, everything turns off, and he's like, okay, fine, I finally managed with the electricity problem. And then when he almost comes to the stairs, he looks at the wall, and there's like this tiny little gap in the wall near the um electrical box, yep. And basically he's like, I gotta investigate. So he walks, and he like in any movie when you see weird things, you always gotta put your hands in it, you gotta like. So basically he puts it, and then it goes through, and he's like, whoa, what is this? And of course he's very curious, so he just enters. And this is where we finally get the back rooms. The yellow wallpaper and the furniture stacked right in front of him as he enters. And he's like, what is this? Is this the building I've been supplying this entire time? This underground yellow wallpaper office looking place? Ah, hell no, we gotta shut this thing down. So he goes to investigate, right? He walks a bit, and then he hears some distant noise, and he's like, "Oh hell nah, I gotta go back." So he rushes back in, and then he phases again into reality, and he's like, "I just made a grand opening." He goes to the therapist and like yaps about it, like, "Yo, I just saw this, I just saw that," and then she's like, and he's like, "Okay." Basically, she doesn't really believe him. I think none of us would like. I found back rooms, and then like we are like, what? Like, what do you mean backrooms? But anyways, he goes on. He plans out the map. He searches the entire area to map it out. He has newspapers, papers, the boards and stuff, and he decides to film it for proof. He calls one of his coworkers, right? And uh, she has a boyfriend who has a camera, and then they explore, they film, and then there's a down passage where the cameraman, they tie a rope around him, right? And then they slowly um, lower him down there, right? And it's dark and it's claustrophobic and stuff, and then boom, like a sudden like a noise, a scream, like baffing out, and he's like, "Oh hell nah!" And then he tries to get out, right? They pull him quickly as they can, but then oops, he got the rope, and he pulls him back, and then when they try to untie him, it pulls the entire gang in. Boom, no escape now. And then Clark ends up there. The boyfriend is dead, and the girl, Clark tries to find her. Then, oops, the camera gets stolen, and the footage is over. It gets stolen by like a monster that we don't see. He just lifts it up. So Mary is like, maybe he's right. Maybe he's onto something. Cause well, we saw her backstory that her mom was insane and she was in an asylum, and she wouldn't get her daughter outside. So she's like, okay, maybe he's onto something. So she drives in. She goes into that shop. She goes through that wall. She like walks around, and then boom, she hears a monster noise, and she's like, "Oh hell nah, oh hell nah." But then she sees Clark, and Clark comes to her, and he suddenly like, and chokes her, and then he ties her to a chair, and there's a table, and oh boy, this is where I kind of like. I mean, it did pique my interest at first how he was exploring the backgrounds, but this scene, I love these types of scenes. I don't know. Basically, they show us that like how Clark essentially lost his mind. He can't he's like his brain is out of this world. And then there are three disfigured people, right? They have they're normally humans, yet they have something wrong with their features, like someone having four eyes, or like someone's face is like one eye's right here, one eye's right here, right? And they're called still lifes, I believe, and these are just entities that exist in the backrooms. Now there was a certain plot. I mean, it wasn't really a twist, but it was more of an explanation. So basically, backrooms is a place where they are it remembers, and the more it remembers, the more it just puts like the more it remembers, the more of things appear in the back rooms itself, the furniture, all of that and stuff, and that includes people. Like for example, Clark's wife, Barbara, who is one of the entities that appears in that room where there's a where he ties her to where Clark ties Mary, the therapist, in the chair, and then they have a talk over the table. There's this little room with a fridge, and then there's also that the cupboards and stuff, and she stands near the cupboard like this, and her face is disfigured or something, and yeah. So basically, he comes up to people. He comes and shows Mary how backrooms are built. He grabs a knife, he puts it in one's head, and says, "They don't feel anything," which is already pretty. I don't know. I don't gotta say the acting is pretty good. I really like the character Clark as well. I really like how he's like putting a knife and like they don't feel anything. Like he made a grand discovery that no one even knows what about backrooms. He's like they can't feel anything, and like And then he's like, and that popular phrase where he says like, he like, and the fun part, you can eat them. And then he just grabs like, I don't know, it just looks like, um, and then he just pulls out of his stomach like a plastic foam or something, and he like, I mean, I don't remember if he eats it. I think he does. And then when he opens the fridge, there's his coworker, and she's dead. She did. Well, basically, I think he grabs something like a drink, I think. But anyways, that's not the main point. Now, when he sits at the table and talks, he talks to her again, like those previous things, the previous scenes where he was the previous sessions. He was like sitting like this, and he like basically they go over the almost the exact same scene, and then he legit cuts the barber's still life scalp off and then puts it on her head, and then they role play the same exact role play they did on session one, I believe, where like the therapist would pretend that she's his wife, and now he's like yeah, basically it just shows just how kind of like out of touch he is now. Then when Mary does convince him that he's like, no, 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 you bad guy, and he like, oh damn, and they're like, please untie me, and he's like, damn, okay. And then when he's about to untie us, the big villain comes. The barber still like just runs around like, like to the corner or something, and like the guy that's sitting in the chair just like ding 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 ding, like the lamp, and it start to like beep and stuff, and like everything is in chaos. It's like the same thing like in Stranger Things where like they feel the demo going, and then the lights start shining, bling ding 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 ding, and like basically, and then this guy appears, my boy Captain Clark, big skeleton of Captain, I mean not skeleton, skeletal body of Captain Clark appears, and Captain Clark is the guy that Clark used to. Basically, he used to be like Captain Clark on the television, right? On the advertisement where he would dress up as a pirate and advertise his furniture. And oh boy, I don't know, I fell in love with like Captain Clark as an antagonist. I kind of liked him. And to be honest, I didn't even expect that Captain Clark is going to be the main antagonist, even though I should. After Clark explained that, like, this still lives is the one he remembers, and then, like, who else was in the movie that he remembers that is, like, a big guy? Like, probably Captain Clark. Who else? But basically, Clark is like, everything is alright. We don't have to change. And then Captain Clark is like this. Oh, gets him up, and, like, and then Clark is like, and then Captain Clark just bites in that shoulder and like starts like going crazy, and then Mary's like her one arm taped, she's like somehow skips, and then she gets up from the chair, and then she like like quickly sticks herself to the wall and walks over the entire scene, and then she quickly opens the door, but then boom, there's another room full of houses. And I forgot to explain, but they do add a lot of other rooms, like that Christmas tree room where it was dark and there was like a Christmas tree. There was also a bathroom room, a room full of clothes and stuff. There was basically a variety of rooms. So basically, she runs to the end of the hallway and then she tries to open the door, but the door doesn't budge. So the door won't budge, right? And she like, oh hell nah. And then she sees the big skeleton, like like Captain Clark just go like, and then she like, oh hell no. And then she quickly runs to the nearest door in the house, and then she opens it, and she quickly runs through like hundred of couches or something, and then she quickly gets through the door with the pet entrance thingy below, right? And she just crawls through it, and then we get this enormous like this room that like if you look down there's just a void. It's like it's like a square form, right? There's like a wall to the left, right, and in front. And then there's just a gigantic black void. I really like that room. I really like that they added it. I feel pretty, I don't know, cool about it. So basically, and then yada yada, she goes, and then there's this Clark's store, by the way, which is a really cool addition in my opinion, kind of, relating and stuff, putting it again in the back rooms. And then Captain Clark just, oof, oof, oof. He's basically so slow you can legit outrun him. She grabs the nearest, I don't know, an item, and then she just slams his leg, and then he falls. And then then she trips and causes this gas release, which is like a sleeping gas. But basically, at the end of the day, Captain Clark almost gets her, but then she slams him in the face, and then quickly, fits into this like narrow gap by going sideways, and then she meets the workers. Well, kind of the workers, with those black thingies, and then there's yellow jumpsuits. And basically, they get her, then they ask her questions, yada yada, at the end, and then we get the credit scene, I guess. I don't know, the post after scene of the movie where we see Mary's still life appearing and sitting in the chair, I think near Clark's store, which basically a quotation. That means that the sequel is gonna happen. And oh boy, I'm gonna be looking forward for that sequel. But the reason why I'm saying it's good is because it just I don't know, it just I don't know, it just added some things like some cool details, like that this entire thing just remembers stuff and people, and then just like recreates them in this life, although they're more distorted. Sometimes they get stuck in between walls, which is also a cool addition that I like. Basically, I just like the background. I really enjoyed that movie. Of course, there are some flaws. Maybe the pacing is a bit bad, but I wouldn't hate on Backrooms for that. I wouldn't hate it for that. Because again, if you want to stretch the concept of Backrooms, you'll need a lot of stuff to fit in. But still, I could sense that Backrooms would be a bit slow. Because again, it's a Backrooms movie. What can you expect, right? People like see a man entering the back rooms and boom, that's the point. But then the movie would last like what, 30 minutes and stuff, and like it just wouldn't be as interesting as actually it turned out to be. And I really like that it wasn't made or distributed by a very successful, I mean, not successful, but like a major billionaire dollar cinema company, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, all of those, and that it really showed creativity. Plus, one of the, I believe, guys working on it was a YouTuber who did backrooms content, like lost footage, analog horror, and stuff, which I really like. We are getting some creative minds out there to actually do a good project. I think the same goes for Obsession. I think, it turned out to be very great. Although again, I'm repeating, I'm not glazing Backrooms. It has its flaws. Sometimes in dialogue, a bit, and again, a bit of a pacing. But they showed the imagery. They showed what Backrooms is like. They explained the Backrooms, even though I mean, Backrooms is supposed to be mysterious most of the time. But again, if you don't explain it, right, no one's gonna get the point. But I think he went too much into the detail. I think it could have gone a bit less. But again, but now since they put all this content, I do wonder what are they gonna do in the sequel? Is it gonna be as interesting as Backrooms 1? Is it gonna be as good as Backrooms 1? But yeah, anyways, I think I safe to say that I enjoyed the movie. I really liked it. And yeah, so peace out.